everybody, Graham from Frontenac Cycle here. Today we're just going to be talking a little basic talk about cables and housing and kind of what they are, what to look for if you need to replace it. This is meant to be a square one introductory to anybody who's maybe looking to do some repairs on their own bike at home. So first we're going to be talking about cables, the inner cable that goes through. There are different thicknesses and different heads for brake cables and gear cables. So here we have the different cables and their different heads, as well as the different kind of coatings you can sometimes find on them. We have a standard road bike brake cable head, standard mountain bike brake cable head or hybrid, anything with a flat bar, standard Shimano and SRAM gear cable head, and a standard Campagnolo gear cable head. Here are just two different kind of colors, branding a Shimano and a SRAM cable that come with a coating that makes it a little bit less friction in the housing. Gear cables are a slightly thinner thickness than a brake cable, and both can come as a regular stainless steel, galvanized steel, which we wouldn't typically use at our shop, or a stainless steel that's coated with like a slick coating to help improve to reduce friction in the housing. So on the ends of your housing and your cables, you're going to be putting what are called caps or ferrules or end caps. Any of those kind of terms are interchangeable. Ferrules would be going on the end of housing, and caps, cable end caps are typically something that we would put on the end of the cable, also called crimps. And those are just going to stop the ends from fraying. So here we have the end caps for cables, sometimes called crimps. There's two different thicknesses, one for a brake and one for a gear, and we'll be just squishing those with a pair of pliers at the end to stop the cable from fraying. And here you can see we have a bunch of different types of ferrules or housing caps, housing ends, different materials and different colors, different thicknesses. As I mentioned, gear and brake cables will come in 4 and 5 millimeter diameters, and so you'll need the corresponding cap size. Plastic caps with a little bit of a grit tube, something that stops grit and dirt from getting into the cable. Typically you would see that on the lower portions of a bike. And then we also have inline barrel adjusters. So these will go in between two sections of housing and will allow you to adjust the cable tension via a barrel adjuster. If you are curious about barrel adjusters, please see our video linked here to check out how those work. So the cable needs to go somewhere. It's going to go inside of the housing. Housing is different from gear and brake. The reason that you have different construction of the housing is with gear housing, the indexed shifting needs to travel, the cable needs to travel a very specific length, and so if you had spongy housing, some of that distance that the cable needs to travel would be soaked up by the sponginess of the housing. So gear housing is stiffer and is made with vertical strands that run along the direction of the housing and create a stiffer interface between the housing and the cable. The brake housing is typically a flatter piece of metal that is coiled around, typically a plastic lining inside. That makes it a little bit more flexible, which means that your brake cable can kind of run at a slightly tighter routing, which can make it a little bit easier for certain types of bikes. So brake housing is a little bit more flexible, and gear housing is a little bit more stiff. There's also hydraulic hose housing. I think in a pinch you could maybe run a brake cable through it, but typically a hydraulic housing is going to be strictly for a hydraulic brake. So you might be wondering what this is. This is like the fanciest type of housing you can get. It's made up of a bunch of different individual aluminum link pieces. But the reason I wanted to show you this is because of what it shows off the inner sheathing that goes inside of all types of housing. Hope you guys found this video on cables and housing informative. Now you know the basics for when you want to go do your next home repair. And as always, if you liked the video, please hit the like button. And if you're interested in more content like this, subscribe and you'll get it in your feed. Thanks.